Hey, what's going on, everyone? I know it's been a long time, but I'm back again for another NFL season. We're on the brink of a new season, which starts on September 7th. Today is Wednesday, August 30th, 2017, and I'm back with my NFL videos. Today will be an NFL preview video. The purpose of this video will be for me to just provide tips and advice that I feel will be helpful to you guys in playing NFL daily fantasy this year on Fanduel as well as Draftkings. I want to introduce myself to some, reintroduce myself to others. My name is Bradford Best, and this is my brand, Be the Best DFS. It's all about trying to be the best that I can be. My motto is count the wins as blessings, losses teach lessons. I'm a man of faith, so when I am fortunate enough to cash out, playing daily fantasy, I just count it as a blessing and be thankful for it. And when I lose or whatever, just try to learn from it. Losses teach lessons. So if y'all was tuning in last season, y'all know how I do. I just kind of just talk about different strategies and tips, and hopefully it can be helpful to y'all for this upcoming NFL season. Again, this is my first video for this year, 2017 NFL preview. And with that being said, let's get started. So we're talking NFL daily fantasy. I want to start off talking about lineup building. I'm probably not going to be telling you guys anything different than what y'all hear on other websites or other podcasts. But one of the most fundamental things in NFL daily fantasy is building a good stack. And when I speak of stack, I'm talking about having a quarterback and a wide receiver, or a quarterback and a tight end on the same team that you can use to build your lineup around. For example, Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown, or Eli Manning and Odell Beckham Jr. Having a good stack is very, very, very important. The reason it's important is because when your stack does well, you're getting fantasy points from two players at the same time on the same team. I believe they say 90% of all winning lineups have a stack. I may not be completely accurate on that, but I know most of the winning lineups, have a stack incorporated in it. So when you're building your lineup, look for that quarterback and wide receiver stack that's going to be good based off of matchups. If not quarterback and wide receiver, quarterback and tight end. And in some cases, you could actually do quarterback and a running back. Like Le'Veon Bell, he's a good back, a good receiving back. Devontae Freeman is a good receiving back. David Johnson is pretty decent. But, stack your quarterback up with primarily a wide receiver, in some cases a tight end, or also in some cases a running back. And that's always, a good way, to start off your lineup building. Now I want to move into talking about position by position. When you think of your skill positions in daily fantasy, your quarterbacks, your running backs, your wide receivers, and your tight ends, which position do you think is the most important? Some people think the quarterback position is most important, but in my opinion, that's not the most important position. I think your running backs and your wide receivers are the most important positions when you're building a daily fantasy lineup. And let me explain my reasons to why I feel that, running backs and wide receivers are more important than quarterbacks. Just from a point scoring standpoint, a passing touchdown on daily fantasy is worth 4 fantasy points. So, Aaron Rodgers throw 3 touchdowns or whatever. That gives him 12 fantasy points for those 3 touchdowns. Now, receivers and running backs, when they get in the end zone, it's worth a total of 6 points, 2 additional points. So if David Johnson or Devontae Freeman scored 3 touchdowns, they're going to have 18 fantasy points on account of their touchdowns compared to the 3 passing touchdowns that a quarterback would have with 12 fantasy points. So although it's a small difference, getting in the end zone and getting 6 fantasy points compared to those 4 fantasy points from a quarterback, it can make a big difference in your lineup total and can make a big difference in your money. So that's my reasons for thinking receivers and running backs are more important than quarterbacks. Don't get me wrong, quarterbacks are important, but I think the receivers and running backs take priority over that. So now, when you're picking your running backs, and let's start with running backs. There's some key things you have to look for when you're picking running backs. One thing you want to look at rushing attempts. As you go along through the season, it'll be a little difficult, to begin the season this year because you have to look back off last year for your data and sample sizes. But as you go through the season, look at the game logs and see which running backs have a lot of rushing attempts. You know what I mean? A good number to look at is like 20 to 25 or more. If a running back is consistently getting the rushing attempts, that means he's getting the opportunities, to run the ball. So that's always something positive to look at when you're looking at running backs. Another thing to look at running backs, how many targets? Are they a running back that get receiving targets? But the rushing attempts is the key thing to look for. Another thing I like to look for with running backs, look at the offensive schemes. Look at the offensive schemes for different teams. Some teams are pass heavy. They like to pass the ball a lot. Other teams, prefer to run the ball more. So kind of get familiar with different teams, strategies and schemes as far as game plans. Excuse me. This might be kind of off the wall, but it's something that I think is valid. I feel that on the road, teams rely on their running game more because of the factors of the crowd noise when they playing in these different stadiums and domes. For example, Seattle, CenturyLink Stadium, I believe, they have one of the best home field advantages in the NFL. So when opposing road teams get there, it's kind of hard to hear your audibles, for the pass game. So I feel that, they will rely more on the run because of all the crowd noise. I don't know if there's any substance to that, but, I do think on the road, teams are more likely to lean on the run game. So that's something else you can look at when looking for running backs. Another thing, you kind of want to stay away from those teams that have running backs by committee, in certain cases. It's probably more beneficial when you have, a running back that pretty much carries all of the workload, like your David Johnsons, Le'Veon Bell, Todd Gurley. You know what I'm trying to say. But depending on the matchups, those teams, those running backs that don't really have to split carries with a backup running back, they are players that you can also target. And then the last thing that I think about, when you're looking for running backs, the weather. It's very, very important. if there is a game where it's cold outside or very, very windy or rainy weather with overcast or things like that, those adverse weather conditions makes it difficult for the passing game. It makes it difficult for the passing game. So when you're in those type of weather environments, teams gonna look to run the ball more. So weather will play an important role in when you're trying to decide what running backs to pick. Just to give you guys an example, in the middle of the season in Green Bay, sometimes it can be really, really cold, around 30 degrees or something or lower. It could be kind of rainy or a little snowy and with some wind. Those are not good weathers for passing. So, depending on what teams are playing, you can pick the running back, that's just my thoughts. I'm going to keep it moving. Next position, I want to talk about wide receiver. Wide receiver position. Things to look for when targeting wide receivers for your weekly lineup. Targets. That's probably one of the most important things. Targets. A good number to look at is 10 plus. 10 plus targets is a good number to look at, because when they get those targets, they get the catch opportunity. They have opportunities to get catches. Same thing with running backs. Look for wide receivers who are the main guys. Like Antonio Brown, he's the main guy. It's not really a good number 2 option. Julio Jones. I'll give you this example. Like Mike Evans for Tampa Bay, he's a great wide receiver. I think he may have led the NFL in targets on last season. But this year, when I think about Mike Evans, I'm not sure how it's going to play out. But they got Deshaun Jackson. They got Deshaun Jackson at wide receiver. And they got the rookie from Alabama, O.J. Howard. 2 pretty good players. That could take away from some of the opportunities for Mike Evans. So basically what I'm saying is week to week, look for the wide receivers who's going to get the most targets, and also don't really have much competition within their own team to compete for targets. If you feel what I'm saying, I think that's like the key thing to look at. And of course, you look at statistics. Same thing with running backs. Look at the weather. Make sure the weather is conducive for passing the ball. If it's in a dome, that's pretty good. And also consider the matchup. What defense is the wide receiver going against? What cornerback will they be going against? Consider the quarterback. Who's going to be throwing him the ball? Is it a quarterback that can really, really get the ball to him? Whether they're at home or on the road. It's a lot of factors. You gotta really dig into it. But the good thing about NFL Daily Fantasy, you get a whole week, to prepare and make your lineup. And then the last thing I probably would say, for wide receivers, certain wide receivers are good red zone targets. Ones with big bodies. So like Mike Evans, Julio. Like Kelvin Benjamin. There's a lot of them. But, look for those guys who get a lot of red zone targets. There's so many little intricate little details that you can research and trends that you can look for as far as looking for wide receiver. But targets, that's really a big one. Targets. Look at the targets and they're going to get those opportunities. And if the matchup fits, it's probably a good play to pick at the wide receiver position. Now, I went over running backs. I went over running backs. I went over wide receivers, quarterbacks. For me personally, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I don't really like to pay up for quarterback too much. I guess it all depends on the week. But you'll look for with quarterbacks, I think you'll look for guys who have a lot of passing attempts. You consider their history, game logs, previous seasons, whether they're playing at home. Quarterbacks typically play better at home. For those of y'all don't know, I'm a Falcons fan. Matt Ryan is one of those guys who splits are definitely better at home. The weather, like I said again, the weather is important, and what he has to work with, what type of receivers he has to work with. For a quarterback, if you're on a team with a weak run game and they're going to pass it a lot, then definitely consider those quarterbacks as targets, for your lineups. And another thing I would say, it goes for quarterbacks, running backs, and receivers. Look at those Vegas over-under totals. They tend to be pretty accurate, but the higher totals, the ones that's predicted for higher scoring games, look for skill players in those games. That's all I really got to say about quarterback. Quickly, very shortly, I want to talk about kicking for Fanduel. Over-under totals. The highest game totals are the games where you look to pick kickers from, where the game is located. Domes are pretty good for kicking, as well as if there's no wind, or if the wind is blowing from end zone to end zone, that can be good for kicking. And again, home or road, home field advantage makes a difference in the NFL. So those are things to consider, when picking your kicker. And lastly, team defenses. This is my thoughts on team defenses really quickly. I want to pick team defenses that can get pressure to the quarterback, because I think when you get pressure to the quarterback, it can turn into all the other positive fantasy points that we want. If you can get pressure on the quarterback, you can get a sack. If you can get a sack can lead to a fumble. You know what I'm saying? Some quarterbacks, they get hit from their blind side, they fumbling when they get sacked. Those sack fumbles can lead to fumble recoveries. Those fumble recoveries, it can lead to, touchdowns, for your defense. And even getting pressure to the quarterback can force interceptions, tip balls, wobbly balls after they get hit, quarterbacks rushing to make decisions. So I say all of that to say that I look for, teams that can get pressure on the quarterback when I'm trying to decide the team defense. That's probably my biggest thing that I'm looking at. And after that, the weather. Again, the weather. I can't emphasize that enough. I'm looking at the weather. So if it's rainy, if it's cold, they can't really pass it a lot. I'm looking at that. And, the Vegas over-under totals, you look at that. What else I look for team defense? It's one more thing. Weather. Oh, yeah, the home field advantage or whatever, if I didn't mention that already. But that's what I look for team defenses. I want to quickly, I'm almost to the end, talk about site-specific tips. DraftKings has a little different strategy. There's some things you really, really need to take note of and pay attention to when you're making your lineups on DraftKings. The bonuses. They have bonuses for 100-yard rushing games for running backs, 100-yard receiving games for wide receivers, and 300-yard passing games for quarterbacks. Those little bonuses can make a difference in your lineup. So with DraftKings you getting a full point. Oh, also, yeah, the PPR. You get a full point for a reception. On FanDuel, you get half a point. So when I mention targets and things like that, that's very, very important on DraftKings, because you get a full point for every catch. And again, those bonuses can come up big for you. and your point totals. So definitely pay attention to that on DraftKings. Look for players who can get those bonuses for you. Utility spot. They have utility spot on DraftKings. If you got 3 running backs and one of them is the Sunday night game, you got 2 running backs in your regular spot, and in your utility spot, you got a running back. Do not put your running back for the Sunday night game at the regular spot, and then put your running back that plays at 1 o'clock in the utility spot. You want to have your utility spot open for flexibility. So whoever you put in that utility spot, make sure if it pertains to your lineup that who's ever in the utility spot is their game starts last, so you can have flexibility to make changes if needed. That's very, very important on DraftKings. Let's see, site specific. So I think that's the main things. I'm probably missing something, but that's the main things on DraftKings that you really need to pay attention to. The last thing that I want to talk about before I close this out, contest selection. I know we all want to be millionaires. Who doesn't? We all want to cash out and win big. But in these large GPPs, for example, that $7 contest on Fanduel where you can win $1 million with tons of entries, your chances are small. It can happen. You never know. But the chances are small. But not only that, with large GPPs, I'm sure you all know, they have like where you can max out 150 entries. And when like players max out 150 entries and you only got like 1 or 2, that already put you behind the 8 ball. So unless you got, the cash to spend like that, I wouldn't advise, just loading up on a bunch of large GPPs. For me, I think if you win tickets for those large GPPs, that's different. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead. If you win like the little satellite tickets and the qualifiers, go ahead at it. Just use those tickets to get in there. But I think it's better to play single entry, your leagues, and like your 3 entry max, 5 entry max. It gives you a better chance because when they load up and max out on these lineups, especially these sharks and experts, they get exposure to like all different type of players. They have Cam Newton in one lineup. They have Matt Ryan in another lineup. Then they have Aaron Rodgers in another lineup. And then they have Dak Prescott in their 4th lineup. And when they have 150 lineups and they use the optimizer, they have exposure to just about anything they want. And when you only have 1 or 2 lines, it kind of puts you behind if you're not right on point with your plays. So that's why I would advise, single entries, 3 entry max, 5 entry max, even 10 entry max. Something with a limit on it. Your leagues, things like that. I believe that's a better route, to go when doing when you're considering your contest selection. So I think that's about all the tips and advice I got for this upcoming NFL season. I'm going to close it out. So y'all that was rocking with me last year, y'all know I come out with videos every week. This was just a preview video. Make sure y'all check out week 1 video, which will be coming out maybe Wednesday probably Wednesday. Most likely Wednesday. I'm going to do my best to make it, try to put it out on Wednesday. But the week 1 video, that's when I come with all the plays that I like. It's going to be lit. Like, I'm coming with the plays, all the plays I like at every position, and give my reasonings, of course, of why I like certain plays. But for all of y'all that took the time out to watch this video, I would like to say thank you so much for your support. Thank you for clicking, listening to me talk for about 20 or 30 minutes. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. And this is not all I got. Those of y'all that was with me last year, I'm on all social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course YouTube. All you gotta do is search the hashtag Be The Best DFS. You'll find me on there. On Instagram, I just put up a new Instagram page at Be The Best DFS 17, 17, the number 17. My old Instagram page is messing up, but on Instagram, I share my lineups. If you want to see my lineup, I'll share it with you. I'm not charging no fees or anything like that. I'm just sharing the lineups. If y'all win some money, if you feel generous enough to tip me, I'll be happy with that. But Instagram, I share lineups. On Facebook, we got like 400 members in there. We post our lineups. We discuss strategies and plays and things like that. So definitely join all of it. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and subscribe to this YouTube channel because I'm focused on being successful, very, very successful this year in NFL daily fantasy. I'm focused on trying to be the best that I can be. That's what it's all about. Be the best DFS, daily fantasy sports. Trying to be the best that I can be. It's not always about just, winning tons of money and things like that. If you be the best that you can be, the winning and the money, all that stuff will come. But just focus on trying to be the best that you can be. I think that's about all I gotta say. Again, thank you everyone for the support. I know it's been a long time. It's been a few months, but I'm back. I'm back for the weekly videos. And as always, again, like I mentioned at the beginning, I'm a man of faith. I thank God for just, blessing me and giving me this platform to just, talk about something that, I really enjoy and have a strong interest in. And, that's what it's all about. And again, y'all know the motto. I'm going to say it every video. I count the wins as blessings. Losses teach lessons. So, yeah, get ready for the NFL season. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Thank y'all for watching the video. And I'll catch y'all next week on week 1 of Be The Best DFS Daily Fantasy Sports Talk. Everyone have a good day. Be safe. Have a blessed day. And I'll catch y'all next time. And as always, I got to get back on track. As always, try to be the best. All right, I'm out.